Hey everybody, welcome back to Something to Complain About. This is A. I'm here with T. T, how are you? How's your week? How's it going?
I am doing really well, and actually the past, I would say like 10 days have just been 10 days full of wonderful surprises.
Ooh, I like surprises, especially good ones.
Yeah. Yeah. As I coughed 2 minutes in.
That's
So,
all right.
yeah, starting about 10 days ago, I stepped out one evening and had a package from Chicago
Oh dear, you got a
with
package?
a jail.
Okay.
It was full of spices, cooking spices, everybody, like legitimate spices. But for my experimental cooking for my good friend A. And then 2 days after that, I got a very cute thinking of you card from one of my mentors who has moved down to Houston.
Nice.
And, so she just like, saw this, thought of you, randomly send it to me. We got a New Year's card from you and your tea. I had lunch with another mentor. I went for a walk. We had one decent day. Met another friend for a walk with the dogs in the park.
Yeah.
Talked to an old friend I haven't talked to in over a year and caught up with another friend and went out for breakfast with the nurses. And I have 2 dates coming up. Yeah, I'm going to a pottery place to paint some pottery with little T.
Okay.
And then I'm going with my friend D to the Jocelyn.
That'll be
Her
fun.
museum has reopened. And yeah, so it's just been a lovely time of spending time with friends and catching up. And yeah, it's been fun. How about you?
It's crazy cold. Like crazy cold. So we have been very quiet, very calm. Nothing too crazy or exciting. Just work and doing stuff. Not as fun as yours. You've had a better couple of weeks than I have. Yes. You win.
I think, it's that post holiday,
Yes.
everybody's kind of calming down and sitting and thinking about, like, oh, I haven't talked to so and so in forever or so. Yeah. But it was good and um, yeah, and just very nice time reconnecting with a lot of friends and making plans and it's good. I never saw myself as such I still don't see myself as a social butterfly, but apparently I've got plenty of friends and people who can tolerate me and are willing to see me on a regular
There
basis.
you go.
Yeah,
I'm always amazed when people are willing to tolerate me and see me on a regular basis. So which
I
we
know.
should be grateful
We should be. We should be.
very much. Nice. And it was nice enough to get outside. You got to go outside
For one day, it hit
just
like
that one day.
49 it was 49 degrees and no wind.
Oh wow.
So I grabbed the dogs, threw their coats on them, and there's a little park that we go to nearby where we meet a friend and his dog, and it's another nice meeting place for some of my other friends and I to kind of meet and then walk the dogs. And so everybody got a dog walk in, got a mile and a half in, so that's not bad at all because we haven't been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it's great. Yeah.
And you only get one. Do you guys have snow?
No. Do you?
We no. We did a little and it's mostly gone now. Because we also had a day where it was 45, 46 or whatever.
Mhm.
And it was sunny. So we got most of what was there disappeared. It is
Yeah.
now single digits. So it is not not outside friendly. I mean, I guess you could. It's very sunny. Like, it's very sunny today, so I had to like close the curtains a little bit. Otherwise, I would be blinded while we sit here. But um, it is cold. And it's going to be colder tomorrow. So this is not a go outside kind of time. This is a be inside the house and do stuff kind of time, which is kind of its
Well,
own interesting thing because that's what we want to talk about today anyway, right? Is household safety. We're kind of on a safety kick, talking about the
we
things that were
are.
happening as we were growing up. We talked. What were the things that we talked about the last two times? I'm getting old. You have to remind me.
We have, I mean, we've covered everything from playgrounds
Right.
to um, me sharing the story about teasing the hogs and sticking
Right.
a spoon in uh,
A light socket or a
yeah, in a lamp, purposely unscrew the light bulb and stuff.
right. The moral of the
Yeah,
stories here are consistently we're lucky we survived.
we are, and we are. I think one of the key things that we remembered about that was one of the reasons why we are still alive is because we always had at least one accomplice, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know as we were talking about these episodes, we had some questions come up about like when did this safety feature start?
Right.
And we talked a bit about seatbelts. Two things that I was curious about was the first one, like when did the fire retardant materials or fire resistant materials for clothing really start? And I did a quick Google search, and apparently we have had the materials for quite some time, and they had been in development for quite some time, but it wasn't until the 1970s. So when we were babies, that they actually started using that material for baby sleepwear. So, like the baby onesies and the baby pajamas. And that was only as a result of all the house fires. But before that, a lot of
Which were the
baby,
result of what?
probably smoking,
Right.
and faulty wiring, but I think smoking, right? Um,
I mean, did we've talked about smoking, I think, a couple times, but I'm just kind of curious. I know we both I discovered this week that you were correct, so we're just gonna set that record straight here, right? Like the commercials about for cigarettes actually ended in 1971, January 1st, 1971. So I don't remember what I was remembering when we were having that conversation and a few episodes back. Like I feel like I saw people smoking. Maybe they were on TV, maybe they were something else. I don't know how I messed it up, but smoking was kind of everywhere. Um, Definitely at home, right? Like people smoked at home, and it was not uncommon when we were kids for people to fall asleep, right? There were public
because it
safety
would,
announcements about like, put your cigarette out before you go to bed, put your cigarette out before you take a nap, right? Because people's chairs and beds would start on fire, and that would be where you'd end up with a house fire, or their clothes would start on fire because the cigarette would fall out of their mouths when they fell asleep and into their lap. I said lap,
and
but
I mean, we laugh, but um, I think of all the stuff that I ended up burning just going throughout the day being a smoker.
yeah,
Like, I don't know how many clothes, um, just, yeah, pieces of paper, burns in the carpet,
yep,
all those things. And I like to think that I was careful, but like I never fell asleep smoking a cigarette. But,
right.
I think there's that. But then I also remember, I just seemed like, even at the house I grew up in, it seemed like we just had a lot of fires.
We did.
And Yeah, I mean, just things like one time the toaster went crazy, caught fire. Um,
Yep.
and I don't know if maybe now there's like additional safety features and things on newer appliances that we don't see that we don't, things don't short out so much. But um, yeah, I was like, I think back, it was like fires everywhere, starting everywhere, either by cigarettes or faulty wiring, or maybe some of it too was, um, were your grandparents, like especially like your grandfathers, were they very much into like, we're going to keep working on this, this toaster or this coffee pot or this iron? We're going to keep tinkering with it. And if we can get another 6 months out of it,
We
we're
don't have to
going
buy another
to.
one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
They
start
thought they could
mixing it.
fix almost anything.
Yes. Or they would start like combining parts and making like a Frankenstein
Yep.
coffee pot. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wonder how many fires were the result of that.
That's a good question. I don't know how we know that, but I bet it's a lot.
Yes. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think like my grandfather would ever admit to anything. Like it would be like an act of God or something. It wouldn't be, yeah, you're right. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
No, they will never tell you that. Never.
But hey, did that iron not work for another 3 months?
It did. It burned a hole in your shirt, but it sure did.
Yeah.
It electrocuted grandma, but it sure did. I mean, it might be any number of things. It may have also, I think, some of it was some of the toys we had. Like, do you
Oh,
remember? I don't know why this is popping into my head because I didn't think about this before. But we had a toy that I think we must have gotten for Christmas or something from somebody because my parents would have not bought it. It was a light bright. Do you remember the light bright?
oh, I
You'd
love
you'd
the light
poke
bright.
those little,
Yes.
yeah, and they'd light up, and but that thing would get to be the temperature of the sun.
Oh, yes. So hot.
You could
My
burn your like you
grandparents
could burn
had
your
one.
fingers on it.
Yes, my grandparents had one and I loved it. But
Yeah,
you're
it was
right,
fun.
because it would get hot and it would burn your fingers and you'd have to turn it off and let it cool off. And so, and quite often, like we had to learn that lesson on our own, didn't we?
We did, but I wonder how many fires that freaking thing started.
Oh, plenty, because, as like kids and stuff, we wouldn't think to unplug something.
That my mom also had this Christmas thing that she still has it. I don't know. She got it from somebody when she was a kid. It has the old plug, right? From like the 1950s on it, which
Oh,
is
no.
and wrapped 600 times with duct tape or electrical tape, probably a combination of the two. But it was basically a little cardboard nativity scene, and you'd crank it, and Jesus and the wise men and whatever would go around in like a little merry-go-round formation on one side of it and had a little tiny light bulb on the other side of it lighting up the manger. And it was like one of those night light bulbs. You
Uh,
remember the night? I mean, they probably still exist. I don't know. But that thing would get, if you didn't plug it in just right, you'd get a little bit of a jolt. And if you didn't unplug it just right, you'd get a little bit of a jolt. And that light bulb would get so hot. It was just, to me, it was sort of miraculous. It didn't burst into flames. She does not plug it in
mm,
anymore. It's just, she just sits it out like as just kind of like,
that it,
I think it was from her mom and dad. Like her grandmother and grandfather gave it to them and she got it. But like that thing could have burnt down our house. We were just fortunate it didn't.
that makes me think of, there was one summer that it was really, really hot. And I cannot remember if we had no air conditioner, or, I mean, at best, growing up, we had a window air conditioner
That's
that would air
fair.
condition one room. So,
Did you have the
remember,
fans? Like we'd put the
yeah,
air conditioner in the room at the end of the house because it was the only place you could put it.
and then
And then there would be
stagger the fan.
fans every six
Yeah,
feet or something trying to blow the air.
we did.
Also lucky we didn't start a fire with those.
Well, I have a story for you.
Oh, goody.
We,
Yeah.
so I remember
I
one
can't
summer,
tell if this is a
we,
story about a fire that occurred or something else nefarious. Or let's hear
there's,
it.
this is, it's a combo. You're going to enjoy this.
It would have
So
to be by the
we
look on your
ended up,
face.
we ended up going to like the local appliance store, and they had all of these fans that mom got cheap, including, and you're going to love this,
Yeah.
3 or 4 of those very old metal fans with no finger guards.
Yes. I
And
wonder
so
how
my
many
mom,
kid lost fingers to those.
I
Another
remember my
conversation, but go ahead.
I remember my mom going, "You do not play with this fan because it will saw your hand off."
Right.
And of
Do
course,
you like
that
your fingers?
that really made me want to do it.
Touch it. Of course it
Um,
did.
but I distinctly remember one of those dangerous fans. Like, don't touch it when it's spinning. Don't touch it. Don't play around it. Nothing, because if anybody part falls in while the fan's moving, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
That was plugged in. We left it alone, but then it caught flames.
It did what? Say that
It
again.
caught it caught fire while it was on.
Of course it did. I mean, it's again, well, you're catching your breath. Let's just go ahead and admit it. We're fortunate we survived.
We are. So see, it was a little bit of a plot twist for you, because you thought you were gonna say, I was gonna say like, oh yes, and this finger's the one that was reattached. But no, we
I
ended
thought
up
you
leaving it
said
alone, and
I actually thought you said it caught hair. It caught my hair instead of it caught
oh
on fire.
no.
And I was like, "Oh God,
Well,
that had to hurt." And then I understood. Yeah, I caught him because it could have caught your hair. I mean,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess I never even thought of that. I think the only thing that would have been like, with it being over summer, I'm sure I would have always had my hair at least in a ponytail.
yeah, that makes sense.
And for quite a while as a kid, I did have short hair. So, but yeah, no, that is a true concern.
Did
But
you guys
then,
used to go up to this fan while it was running and talking to it so it did
oh,
that funny little
yeah,
vibrato thing? So
well,
you really couldn't have done that with this fan because like that would have been way more dangerous. But somebody I'm
yeah,
sure did.
yeah, because I wouldn't have any lips. And we
Right.
also would like stick things in to see what would stop the fan.
Yes. I remember
All in the name
paper,
of,
pencil,
yes, sometimes
yardstick,
a butter knife.
which that sound like a good idea. Oh dear. I
Like,
can hear
I,
your grandmother screaming at you, even though I've never met the woman. Mostly because my grandmother screamed at us, and I remember her scream.
what? I did not say it was a good idea. I met my grandmother one time. You
Was that your
did.
graduation?
Yeah, remember that old woman that kept giving dirty looks to you?
Yeah.
Right, his grandma.
Sitting at the table with your mom.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember her. Why
No,
was I getting dirty? I don't want to know. Don't want to
no,
know, honestly.
I was giving her dirty looks.
Oh, I thought she was giving me dirty looks. I
I
mean,
know
okay.
she thought you were wonderful. She wasn't quite sure how you fit into the picture. But I remember at one point, she sat down next to you and she started talking to you about all kinds of different groups of people, starting with, and then insert whatever negative stereotype. And I remember you just sitting there, just nice and calmly and smiling politely. And I remember afterwards, I was like, oh, God, first of all, my apologies that you dealt with grandma. And then second of all, thank you because you handled her so well. And now she adores you. And you were like, well, I got to check grandma too. So,
I did.
but it's okay if you don't remember my grandmother, because she, yeah, no, that was not. That was not good. But no, you did
That
meet her.
was that your that was your mom's mom?
That was my mom's mom,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. I remember the conversation. I remember her. I guess I forgot somehow that she was your grandma and that's the same person, but I do
Yeah,
remember it.
no, no, the old racist, sexist, xenophobic, nasty old woman that sat next to you at my graduation party, that was grandma.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So and she was on good and she was on good behavior because she and I had had a fight earlier that day and I told her to straighten up and fly right. So she was behaving.
I mean, she did about as well as she could for someone that age. I mean, that's
And
just
now
the way it is, right? Like, you know,
they're not
I had,
mental.
well, I mean, no comments. May she rest in peace.
He says,
Much like her China.
much like her China.
Very well, very well. I mean, so toys were kind of dangerous. I mean, we talked about the library, we talked about some crazy fans. What else did we have for toys that were nuts? We had lots of metal toys that
Well,
you had to be very careful about because you could easily hurt yourself, but like nobody cared. Right.
here's
Like,
a and here's a big one where the toy guns. And I think both you and I probably played with some of those inherited old metal toy guns that, it was all metal. I mean, I
yeah,
remember now that I think about it, I think one of the toy guns that we played with at my grandparents' house, now I'm thinking it really was a pistol. And someone just took the bullets out because it had a pearl handle.
we had some of those that were toy. They were white handles that were like supposed to be pearl. So maybe you actually had a real one. Because like the toys that we had, they were just painted white metal, right? So it wasn't real pearl, but they were supposed to imitate it.
No,
We also
I
had cap
really
guns. Were
wondered.
these cap guns or do you remember cap guns?
No, I do remember cap guns. No, but I do remember the pearl handle. But if you remember pearl handles too, maybe that was just the style of the toy.
Could have been. But
Because I
there were some
really
really
can't.
like my uncles had pistols that had pearl handles that were beautiful. Like the craftsmanship to make them
Right,
was just amazing. Like I still remember
right.
it, but
But I guess it makes sense that some of the toys, because they're mimicking the larger stuff, would have.
yeah.
Um, I mean, the only rule that we had for the toy guns was you don't point them at another person.
I was seeing our rule was you don't point them at somebody's face. You could point them at whatever else you wanted. You don't put them in the face. And part of that was because the cap gun would blow sparks and smoke, right? So they could cause blindness if the sparks got in your eye. They could make you slightly deaf. Go ahead and take a deep breath. It looks like you're
I
if
mean,
people could see you, you're laughing pretty hard. But like the cap guns, remember there was actually a point. I don't know what point it was when we were growing up. It was probably when we were in high school, or maybe even college, when toy guns had to have the orange tip, right? Like
oh
there was
yeah.
a point for safety because the police officers were having trouble determining whether the gun was real or fake, and some kids got shot. And so they started making toy guns with very obvious identification. But that was not us. Our generation,
No,
absolutely everything looked real. And those cap guns were loud and smoky and sparky, and you could burn your
yeah,
hand. You could,
no.
if you got it too
We
close to somebody's ear, your ear would ring for hours. Like it was a lot.
I think
But
that
nobody
was one
cared.
response. That was one responsible thing my family did because Lord knows what would have happened if we would have been allowed around any kind of ammunition.
Right.
Because we'd all be walking around with like one eye and seven fingers and
Did you
limbs
you
and
guys were you guys were world bumpkins too. Did you have BB guns?
no.
See, we did. I mean, we were maybe slightly more rural, but like that
I
was as
mean,
we got older and closer to I mean, we would have probably been 10, 11-ish. Then, like, the first gun, they literally sold them at the hardware store. It was like kid's first gun or whatever.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was just a pump action BB gun. And let's get like you could hurt somebody a little bit. Like you couldn't do damage. You couldn't really kill anything with it.
Yeah,
Um,
but you could really hurt a little animal or something because I don't know how many cats and dogs and rabbit and squirrels would get shot and they not outright killed.
yeah.
Some of that is, well, I mean, first of all, we just had the money for that. Like the guns are at my grandma's house. And the other thing is that I was not um, into guns at all. So like I shot like a BB gun once or twice. And I really didn't see the thrill of it. So, I was 31 before I even shot a gun.
I was not. We were like we had to take hunter safety as seventh graders. Like that was it. You weren't required, but you pretty much everybody did it because you couldn't you couldn't go hunting with your family or whatever. And it wasn't like I really liked to hunt a lot, but I remember doing it, and then we had to go to the range and shoot. So we had to practice in the shotguns and the other kinds of rifles because my family did hunt. I didn't particularly love it, but everybody hunted pheasant, everybody hunted deer. Um,
Yeah.
they, I mean, they would make deer, venison, whatever for, freezer. Um, and my brother still does. Like, he's still like, my dad really, not as much. Like, my dad would go pheasant hunting once in a while, but he wasn't really as into it as everybody else seemed to be. So, like, we were, as we got a little bit into high school, grandpa got us each a shotgun, like a little 10 gauge shotgun, which I think I used twice. And then I honestly don't even know where it is. Like, I don't know who got it. I don't know what happened to it.
Oh, that's responsible gun ownership.
I think we left them at the farm. And then when grandpa passed away, other members of the family just kind of come and took what they wanted. And I think that's what happened. It just disappeared with that. I mean, it wasn't like it was registered to me or something. It was just a gun grandpa bought and it was for
Yeah.
me, right? But
Oh, so you were illegally discharging a weapon.
I suppose, I don't know, is there a law about
See,
that? I'm
I don't.
confused.
I think we need to stop this conversation, right?
Or I need to seek counsel? Is that what you're telling me?
I think
This was
so.
35 years ago, so let's go.
I don't know what the statute of limitations is.
It's probably less than
Yeah, it's like,
35
well,
years, but I mean, so we
so
had
this
those
was
kinds of
important.
guns. Did you guys have lawn darts? I mean, thinking about
No,
dangerous toys. Did you have the lawn darts or the jarts or whatever the heck they were called? Did you have those?
no, we did
Oh, those
not.
were we we did for a little bit, and then
Oh,
there was an issue with people kept getting hurt. Obviously, people got hurt. I mean,
okay. We
obviously,
did. We did have croquet mallets for a while, like real croquet
we
mallets.
did too.
But
Yeah,
then when they were started, when we started using them against other human beings, they disappeared forever
imagine that.
because they
Well,
weren't the
because
little
like
plastic ones.
it was too. I mean, it was too much work to set up all the croquet stuff. So you just
Well,
chase each other around with them.
and I think too, then because I can't remember, I don't think we had it again. I think it was something my grandparents got for all the grandkids, and I think between using the mallets as weapons, and probably about the first time Grandpa went out to mow the lawn and caught one of the little, because they were wire
Yeah,
and messed up the mower, then they disappeared. It's like, it's one thing if our grandchildren incite violence and are carrying weapons,
if they ruin our
could make it
machinery,
assault.
it's no. That makes
Especially,
okay. Then that's another good question. Did you have to mow the lawn?
I did, yes.
So did I. Yeah, so did my
Yeah.
brother. Like we both had to learn how to
Um,
mow the lawn. We
I think,
learned in town. right, with the push mower that of course my dad was there, but then we also had
How
to learn out on the farm how to drive the tractor mower because grandma
well,
needed help mowing her yard and
how
it was like a 5 hour process.
how old were you when you learned to mow?
9 or 10.
I was gonna say, I think because we got our house the winter I turned 8, so I'd have been pushing 9. So I
Yeah.
think that first summer in the house that, we had, my grandpa and mom, they taught me to mow, and then my brother soon after. But and we had, like, 3 our yard was, like, the size of 3 lots, and my brother we got, like, a very old riding lawnmower that grandpa resurrected from somewhere. He always got the riding lawnmower, and I always had the push
Okay.
because he was the boy and I was the girl.
That makes sense in its
Yeah.
own jacked up 1980s kind of way, but
Tease family kinda way.
right. No, we had
So,
to push for
yeah.
a long time. We did not have a riding mower in town. My dad still does not. Like their yard now is not you wouldn't use a riding mower, it would be useless. But where we grew up, we could have used a riding mower a little bit. But he definitely did not have a riding mower. It was always as initially the mower we had was not self-propelled. And then we did get a
Oh, yeah.
self-propelled one and that one died and he couldn't resurrect it anymore. Um, but like grandma, if you want to do that with push mower, it's gonna take you 3 days. So, like, she was very particular. There was a section of the yard that had to be done with the push mower because she wanted it to look a certain way. And then everything else out to the highway could be done with the tractor. And so that's kind of what we did. Mowed, we had to learn how to drive it. And there was a point at which that's how we also earned money, right? As we got into our preteen years and our teenage years, we
Oh,
earned money mowing people's yards. And I mowed the
mm,
churchyard, and it was such
uh,
a big lot. It had to be on a tractor. Like it took all day on a tractor anyway, on a driving mower, a riding mower.
mhm.
Um, but like it was that, and then a constant conversation about you had to be careful how to engage the blade because if you got your foot run over, you'd lose your foot, right? Like there was always like, remember, it'll chop your foot off, right? Like, so just be careful. Um,
Which that was I mean, we just got reminders, right? Because, like, as soon as, um, I learned to mow, like, it was unsupervised.
yeah,
I was out there 9 years old mowing the lawn by myself.
doesn't surprise. I mean, like they were in the house, they look out the window once in a while, but that was the supervision. The neighbor
Yeah.
would watch us mow sometimes because she'd be sitting at her table, she'd sit at her kitchen table watching out her window, like she could watch everybody from her kitchen window, smoking her cigarette. And she'd call and be like, yeah, he's having trouble. You better get out there and help him or whatever. Cause they were busy doing other things and we were supposed to be mowing. So safety, we're
Safety.
fortunate we survived. My grandfather, I remember, was mowing one time, and as he was riding the mower up the ditch, as he was mowing the ditch, it came back over on top of him.
Um,
Thankfully, obviously, the steering wheel hit his chest and broke a rib, right? But blades were the blades were still spinning when my uncle got out there to turn it off because Grandpa was knocked
think
unconscious from the force of the steering wheel. But like we always did that too. When we mowed, we had to mow the ditch. So it could have easily happened to one of us. These were things you did when you were young on the farm or young out in the country, right? Like you had to do a lot of stuff that was probably not particularly safe.
well, I think about, like, we had a very sharp but short hill on our property,
Yeah.
and I think about how well, first of all, like, when I'd be out mowing, it was usually in flip-flop shorts and a tank top. So I still have scars on my legs from various stuff, just flying
Yep.
into me. But like I would mow theirs, and with all the reasoning of a kid, let the let the mower drag me down the hill
Yep.
and then pull it up. Like, well, I'm still like, I don't know. And now I'm kind of curious, like, how old are kids when they actually learn to mow the lawn? Probably not 8 or 9 years old, I would imagine.
I doubt it. And who knows? They may not even be doing it. There
Am
are a
I
lot of
lonely?
people who just hire someone to mow their yard, and these lawn services come and do it all for you. And like, even,
Yeah, but not, I mean, not everybody though.
oh
Not
gosh, no, not
everybody though.
everybody. I just don't know who's doing it. I know my nephew will learn how to mow the yard soon. He's 9, or
But
he'll be 10 this year.
he'll
So
be supervised.
oh yeah, he'll be supervised, but he's going to learn soon. As soon as he's old enough to push it, he's going to learn how to do it. That's kind of how that will work. So,
So one thing you've asked a couple times already, um, is, like how safe were our toys? And we talked about the metal toys, but choking hazards. And I actually looked up when did they start putting the recommended age for a toy? Not until 1985.
that makes sense. Yeah,
So,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
So, I mean, I think about some of those things. And again, some of those conversations that even come up with like different parenting styles and things like that. There were so many things that, my grandparents had either picked up like at garage sales or my parents had, or things that were inherited that today would just go in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like I have that, and I've shown you my little rocking chair,
Mhm.
my little metal rocking chair that's probably full of asbestos, which might explain why I was never able to have children. But it's like
Or catch your breath.
nowadays, somebody would be like, okay, what is this, lead paint? Is it asbestos? What is it?
Yeah.
Because it was my dad's in the early 50s. The Lord knows what that paint was made of. And all metal. I remember getting scratched and pinched on it.
Yeah.
Um, and like now, like I wouldn't give it to, it's for a size of, a kid from probably about 18 months to 3 years. And like, no, that's not safe. You're going to get lead
Even
poisoning
board
yeah.
game pieces. Remember the board game pieces?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
remember Monopoly? The little tiny, people would swallow them, stick them up their nose. Kids
Yeah.
would. Yeah, they'd get
Yeah.
stuck.
Or even like, I think of like, with Barbie dolls and they say age 3 up, but oh, the little Barbie shoes.
Uh-huh.
Like I had a Barbie that had the little earrings and so yeah, because I thought, well, when can that really start happening that they started to really look at cooking hazards and what but now the more I think of it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, everything I played with was dangerous. Like my grandma had a it's an old no, my mom did. So it was my mom was growing up. So again, something made of metal, painted with Lord knows what. And it was an ironing board, so I'd play with it. Pinched me all the time because it's metal parts.
That's why they had all the Band-Aids and the mercurochrome in the medicine cabinet, because they knew we were going to hurt ourselves.
Yeah, but my mom, she was not big on using Band-Aids.
My mom was not good with blood, so we were kind of on our own with that.
My mom was like, if you're still free, excuse me, if you're still free bleeding after 5-10 minutes, then yeah, slap on a Band-Aid. But
Otherwise,
otherwise,
just hold it, put pressure on it, it'll stop.
well, I mean, that's why a couple weeks ago you saw me sitting here sucking on my finger for 20 minutes. That's a learned behavior.
Apparently.
Because although I have plenty of band-aids and it would have been like a lot more sanitary, now that's the old, um, it'll stop on its own eventually.
It will,
And,
usually.
and you
And you're
don't
still
waste a
here and
band-aid
it's
on that.
fine.
But I think part of the band-aid thing though in my house was my sister thought and still thinks like anytime you even bump something and needs a band-aid, even if there's no blood.
Right.
Like she would literally wear like 15 band-aids at any time. And then we figured out our dollies could wear band-aids.
Yes, they could. Yet
So, and then when
my
my mom
cousin
was
used to
like,
put them on for stuffed animals. Like not just for like dollies like Barbies, but she would put them on like if they would be a tear in her stuffed animal from something, she would put band-aids on it. They wouldn't stick very well, but she would
I
try.
imagine not.
Yeah, just have
So
fun.
yeah,
Yes.
I was looking at that and I thought, okay, that's interesting because even if you think about, and I don't know how often you got these. I mean, we didn't very often because we weren't near McDonald's. So I remember when we would, but the toys
Yeah.
and the Happy Meals, I remember how small some of those were.
They're very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get them hardly ever because like we were a long way from a McDonald's and we didn't.
Yeah.
It
We
wasn't
were
a favorite of
due.
ours anyway if we were going to go out to eat. But if we were in Fargo for something or somewhere, that might be a thing. But they were tiny.
Yeah, I think we ate the most McDonald's with my dad because that was a quick, easy way for him to shut us up.
It's fair.
So,
They had ice cream there too.
not always,
Well,
because we used to go to Dairy Queen for ice cream.
that's true.
Um, but to put a little spin on this and talking about safety and um, for whatever reason, when I was reviewing some notes, there's another safety concern that I came across today, and I thought, I'm going to throw this in here for school field trips. We visited so many prisons.
Really? We didn't
Yeah,
ever do that.
yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, how safe was that really to
I
bring
mean, a
in?
prison? No, not at all. I do
Like,
remember we visited the county courthouse and they showed us the county jail area,
right?
but like there was nobody in there.
Oh, see, I remember when we got a tour of the county jail, and I knew all of the inmates,
Oh yeah, no, I
and
didn't. There was a single
and
person.
some of them were my T's friends. So it was like, oh, hey, how's it going? I know where you've been. Oh, you've been in the jail.
There,
But no, thinking back, like, no, we would go. Like, I think I went to almost every state penitentiary in Kansas and half in Nebraska. Like, no, they would just drive us in and like
that's
show
such
us.
a strange field trip. I mean, the courthouse, I understood. Like, we saw the courtroom, we met the judge, we saw the
Right.
county nurse, like, we got to, like, the county auditors, the county commissioners were all there. Like, we got to have
Yeah.
government worked a little bit. And of course, we wanted to meet, we got to see the sheriff and the sheriff's office and the jail, which was like, I mean, the thing is, where I grew up, like, the county jail was literally not people were only held there if they were being held for trial in the morning, right? They would be brought in from another place. So if you got arrested in my county, they didn't book you into our county jail. They took you to another facility in another county that was big enough to book you and hold you because we didn't have people on staff in our county 24/7 to run the sheriff's office, right? So the only
No,
time
we
they'd put
had,
people in that jail was if they were there for court.
okay. No, we had, for the shorter sentences, like within other jails. So extra was
Yeah.
just for under a year.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of times for holding for pretrial. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back and I'm like, now, what would have happened if there would have been a riot?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the first time I visited a prison, I was an adult working in social work, and I was uncomfortable going as a 25-year-old, whatever the heck I was. But taking kids to a place like that, just there's something I don't who was coming up with that? Who thought that sounded like a good idea? And what kind of learning experience are you having at a jail? Was this supposed to be a straighten up and fly right so you don't end up here kind of thing, or
Yeah,
what?
no, because I mean, we would visit prisons starting as early as like age 7 or 8. So it's not like taking a bunch of teenagers, like that old what Scared Straight TV show. Wasn't even that. It's like let's take the children to prison.
I got no answers here. That's just the weird. I've never heard that. That just must be it. Maybe it's a Kansas thing.
But and it might be T's hometown though.
It might
I
be.
there were enough other places that we could visit. Like I saw so many prisons as a child.
That is
And then you
that
think,
that's interesting.
yeah, I mean, I think we were pretty much kept away from the prisoners, but still, like, if there's any unrest or something, how are you going to corral 50 kids amidst a prison riot?
That's a good question. I do not know.
And
Like
they took us to prisons where they had, like, at that time, they still had the death penalty. So they took us where people were on death row.
it's just so weird.
Isn't that weird? So, in the grander scheme of safety, it's like, I mean, can you imagine if you were a parent or with your nephew and your nephew going, "Hey, Uncle A, I'm going to go to the state pen for a field trip." Like, no.
No, I can't. I can't actually imagine my brother and sister in law being like, "That's okay." I
Yeah,
think
no,
they
that's
would
cool.
not allow it, but I just can't wrap my head around why that would be a destination for a field trip. Like, especially in multiple times over. I don't have anything to top that. Like, that's
And,
basically the end of the episode because that's so shocking.
and, and that's
Well,
okay
we're not.
because we're running about an hour. But before we wrap up, let me tell you the one takeaway I got from it.
Yeah,
Out of all those prison visits, and we also visited different jails too. Um, the only thing I got out of it was a fear of going potty in front of other people. Like to me, that was like the worst thing. Like you have to go to the bathroom in front of other people.
that would suck.
No, not what you have to do to end up in prison, not everything else that goes on in prison. Because as a 7-year-old, you're like, oh, they get recess, they get fed,
That
they
is.
get a TV, they have their own bed, they have a desk. Oh, but I have to pee in front of everybody. Yeah, no, not so cool. That was what I took away.
I mean, this is why I haven't gone to jail yet. I don't want to do those things.
Yeah, I know. Like, I still don't
Not
want to
for
be
lack of
with
trying.
anybody.
No, that's probably not true.
I mean, that's my biggest fear. Like, I don't want to pee or change clothes in front of everyone.
I still don't understand why they took you. It would be nice if we could find one of your old teachers or an old principal or something and be like, "What were you all thinking?" Because we'd just like to know, just out of curiosity.
They're all dead now. So it'll
That's
be one
fair.
of life's mysteries.
That's just crazy. So I mean, when we come down to it, we really are lucky we survived, and we're also very lucky that we survived without deeper psychological wounds than we probably both already have, at least from the safety aspects of things.
At least from the safety aspects of things. But in our next episode, we're going to start talking about treatment for health and illness. And so we're just gonna keep all the trauma train
The trauma
running.
train trucking. It'll
But
work.
in the meantime, everyone who's listening, please let us know what were some of the dangerous toys and things that you played with. Did things like to catch fire at your home as well? And also, am I the only one who got to go to prison for field trips?
That's the one I really want to know about. Like, I'm interested in anything else anybody wants to share, but please, did anybody else get drugged to prisons multiple times as a field trip? I mean, I just can't. I mean, I just need somebody tell me that this happened elsewhere, because if it didn't happen elsewhere, then I think we need to start asking other questions. Like, why did the people in that part of Kansas think it was important that you all got to see prisons repeatedly? Like, did they just expect you all to end up there? Like, what were they hoping to leave some of you behind? Like, what was or maybe they had family members who were there and that was their way to go visit. I'm not sure, but like,
Or maybe it was a combination of everything. I know that the education system that I grew up in had very low expectations for children whose parents were divorced.
so this was just sort of like, this is one of your options. You can go to college, or you can go here, or you can go to the
Yeah.
military, or you can work at the
Yeah.
coast to coast down the street. Okay, that's fine.
Seemed to think, gee, that you might be ending up here. So here you go. Here's a glimpse into your future. Um, again,
So weird. Anyway,
yeah. You know what my mother told my brother in Kansas? A grade of D equals diploma.
well,
So,
she's not
so,
wrong. It's true.
so um, yeah, it's not like I received a stellar education. Okay,
Fair enough.
they were playing enough because I do know quite a few old classmates who did end up in the criminal justice system as I'll say clients and guests of various counties in Kansas and guests of the state of Kansas.
So they got some frequent flyer miles out of all that, it sounds like.
Yeah, a lot of the three hots in the cot. Yeah.
There you go. Well,
All
I
right,
mean,
everybody. We will see you next week.
all right. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, get them to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Bye, everybody.